Reese, the first question is for you. So I'm from Russia, and Rasputin, even within like school lessons, is a hero of many speculations and conspiracy theories. Do you have a favorite one?
About Rasputin.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, like you said, there are so many, and some you don't even know if they're true. You know, Rasputin has so much mystery around him. You know, which makes him a very interesting character. You know, I like the fact it's in the film. You know, that he had a little bit of arsenic every morning. But I'm sure as a Russian, you know all these. Why do you know something you can tell me that because you're a Russian, maybe you have more information.
Well, actually, like my favorite one was from the cartoon Anastasia, and he was the villain there too. But like I guess the most interesting part about him is you can't actually say if he's a villain or just like an average person who was in the history.
Exactly. And this is what I find so fascinating and appealing about him, because like you say, on one side he was a dangerous, villainous man, and then there's another part of me that thinks here's this guy from a very, very poor home, poor background, who manages to work his way right the way through the higher echelons of Russian society to such an incredible, powerful position, you know, and doing it by, who knows, trickery or mysticism, I don't know. So yeah, we were, when they said to us, and now this is Lena from Russia, we were like, oh God, now we're in trouble. So I'm glad you're happy so far.
So the next question is for Tom. So you played three characters. So who was like the most fun to play and why?
The most fun is the Kaiser. He's the most fun because he was a sort of German baddie, and in England we're still obsessed with German baddies because of the Second World War. Yeah, because the last thing that anyone is still happy about in this country is that we won the Second World War. So it's okay to make fun of Germans, apparently. I think it is anyway.
Yeah.
Still. So in a way, it's a profoundly racist portrayal of the Kaiser, which I was forced to do by Matthew Vaughn.
Okay.
Anyway, and he had the most funny nose and the silliest voice. The most interesting one was the Tsar, but because I thought he was the most fascinating, mysterious character. But I'm not going to tell you why I thought that, because I may say something incorrect, and I'm aware that this is a Russian audience. But and the one I found the most sort of straightforward was the George, because he was, you know, he's an Englishman.
Okay. So was there like any research for both of you when you prepared for the roles? Like, did you read something or maybe watch some movies about like Russian history? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, we all grow up, as I'm sure you do in Russia, with, you know, we all know the history, or we think we know the history of the events leading up to the First and Second World War. You know, everyone has a kind of, you know, skeletal shape of how things, you know, turned out. Yeah, and, you know, in another film, a more serious film, possibly, my research might have been a lot more extensive, you know. But Rasputin is a fascinating character anyway. So, you know, I'd like to think that I'd read enough about him to play him in any kind of movie, you know.
I read a book called The Three Emperors by Miranda Carter, which was very long and did deep research into all three characters. But it didn't. In a way, it doesn't make any difference because you sort of end up doing something that's partly instinctive and mostly to do with what the script is telling you to do, because they've done a lot of research, or they've done all the research that they want to already. So, as an actor, often you're inhabiting the choices that have been made for you in terms of, and then you're trying to work out what the tone is. I actually have played at the tone of this particular film or TV show or whatever it is. So I played George V, for instance. I played it before, but this was like in a different show. But this was like playing a completely different character because the tone of the show was different. I could have done the same research for both of them, but actually wouldn't have. The difference is made by the director and this particular narrative and the style of the show and so on.
I tried arsenic, but it just gave me a headache.
So the next question is actually like can open a debate, but what do you think? Who from all of your characters has the nicest beard or mustache?
Well, for me, it's the Kaiser's very angry, erect facial hair. Was just fantastic because he looks like a man who's falling out of an aeroplane.
Yes. We did a scene with Rasputin's penis in it, which I don't think is in the film. I don't think it made it to the final film, but that had some interesting hair on it as well.
There was a scene there was one day on the set in a palace in Turin, if you please, where 6 penises were brought to the table, and I had to choose which one I think would be mine. Of course, I chose the biggest, fattest one on the table and said, that's one.
And
so,
I had it presented to me on a plate,
and
to prove that Rasputin was dead. And you will tell me whether this is true or not, but the idea was that it was only by seeing his penis that the Tsar recognized the penis and went, oh yeah, that's Rasputin. He obviously is dead. If it's on that, it was like that. Yeah. Apparently it's in a museum somewhere.
Yeah.
We were going to go. Did you go to see that as part of your research?
No, I didn't, Tom.
That's a shame.
It's amazing how little research Rhys did for this, considering how good he is in it.
Yeah. I used to do this at school. In art, for example, they always wanted to see your preparation leading to the final piece. But I would always do the final piece and then do the preparation really thoroughly because I had a final piece to work from. And then I would bring it into my teacher, and that's how I've proceeded in life since then.
That's good. So I think the last question is, so you are offered, like, let's imagine that you are offered to organize a League of Super Spies, and you can invite anyone from history, pop culture, or whatever. Who would you call first?
Of Super Spies?
Yeah.
I would have Julian Aссанж, Edward Snowden.
Okay.
And I would leave it with those two. I mean, I think they're very good at what they did.
Mm-hmm. Tom?
I know. I mean, well, my friend Matthew, who you don't know, and there's a girl I know called Alison who would be a brilliant spy because she's so ordinary. There's nothing interesting about her. If she was a spy, it'd be brilliant. And a couple of other friends, Bob and Tony, who live in Devon. The interesting thing about all of those people is that they're completely unexceptional people, which I think is a good quality in a spy. Because Julian Assange,
Yeah.
you know, he's
I know you're
clearly
right. I've got
a
the question wrong.
narcissist weirdo with white hair
Yeah.
wandering around and going, what's he up to?
Yeah, I've got
when he
that.
walks
I
in?
got the brief wrong. There is a guy in Cardiff called John the Spy, and no one really knows why, so he might be good. It is. There's a guy called John the Spy, and he doesn't really spy.
And Snowden is already been.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, he did one bit of spying,
scratch
got
that.
immediately
Okay,
caught.
Look, he's
No good,
completely
is it?
right. Of course, I've blown it.
Good spy, don't notice them.
Yeah.